and Joe Campbell McCardle. To ahas and Dawn Arena Van Shaw is Tuatha Dé Danann, Virginia. So we go under the name of Tales of Tuatha Dé Danann, and tonight we're going to tell the story of Birth Lugh, of course, because it's the festival of lunacy. But there's a lot to Lugh's story, and we could be here all night, maybe into next week. So we're going to break it down, and this is the story of the birth of Birth Lugh. We hope you enjoy it. A beautiful light filled the room where Ethna lay. She opened her eyes slowly and saw before her a hooded figure. Her heart began to race, for she knew it must be him. The man whose face she had come to know so well, for that face was so beautiful. Eyes of piercing blue, golden curls. He didn't speak. He just looked at her. And she could sense that he cared for her, that he loved her, that their souls had matched, that he was her destiny. Suddenly, there was a noise from the other side of the room, a door opening, and a voice of her handmaiden Sinead. "Time to get up, Ethna!" Ethna woke from her dream with a heavy heart. "Oh, Sinead, why'd you have to wake me?" "What do you mean?" asked Sinead. "It's long after sunrise. Time for breakfast, get up." "Oh, I know," said Ethna, "but I was having the most beautiful dream." "Oh, him again," laughed Sinead. "Yes, him again," said Ethna. "He's all I dream about these days. He's there every night." "What could it mean, Sinead? It must mean something." "I don't know," said Sinead, "but shh, the other handmaidens are coming. I don't want them to hear you. It would be very dangerous if this got back to your father." "Yes, I know," said Ethna. And she knew very well what it could mean for her if this got back to her father. For when Ethna was born, her father had her locked in a tower with 12 handmaidens and said that that's where she was to spend the rest of her days, so that she may never lay eyes on a man. For when Ethna was born, it was prophesied that her offspring would bring about the destruction of her father. And he, Balor of the piercing eye, Balor, great warrior of the Fomorian tribe, was advised to kill Ethna as soon as she was born. But he looked at her, and her beauty captured his cold, hard heart, and he felt something inside, something he hadn't felt in a very, very long time. And even though he had his druid there beside him saying, "You know what you have to do, Lord," he couldn't go through with it. "I won't do it," he said. "Take her away. I don't want to see her again. Place her in a tower, the tallest tower on Tory Island. Take 12 handmaidens to look after her and guard that tower. Let no man ever enter. If any man is ever seen in the vicinity of that place, he's to be executed on sight." "Very well, Lord," said his druid. And he accompanied the 12 ladies and the baby over to the tower. And as they walked, he looked at that beautiful baby. Beautiful as she was, his heart sank, for he knew that this could mean the end of Balor. "18 years later, and far from Tory Island, 3 brothers lay under the shade of a great oak tree, enjoying a beautiful sunny day. A cow grazed beside them. The cow started to walk over to the other side of the field. "Come back, lass," called Cain. "Get up and get her," said Coo. "Well, actually, Coo, it's your turn," said Cahan. "You get up and get her." "Right then," said Coo. And he got up slowly and made his way over to the cow. That cow was the glass gownin, the most precious cow on the island of Ireland. The cow of plenty, whose milk never ran dry. She provided all of the Tuatha Dé Danann with the most beautiful creamy milk, which was then made into the most delicious butter and cheese, and all the people adored her. And these three brothers, Cian, Cú and Ceann, they were the guardians of the Glasgow. They were the sons of Jean Cecht, great god of the Tuatha Dé Danann, and they were sworn to protect this cow, for they knew that all other tribes desired her, and if given half a chance, they would come and steal her away for themselves. "Will you hurry up, Cú?" Cian called. "Cú! Will you relax?" said Ceann. "She's all right." "Shut up, Ceann," said Cian. "I'm sick of your attitude." "What's wrong? You worried Balor will get her?" said Ceann. "I wouldn't joke about that," came another voice. They turned round and saw their father, Jean Cecht, standing beside them. "Cian's right to be worried. We all know of Balor's threats to take her," said Jean Cecht. "Well, it's not like we won't see him coming," said Ceann. "Apparently he's 10 feet tall, has a massive piercing eye, sealed shut with a ring apparently, and that can only be opened if 4 men haul it open, so I think we'll be alright." "Well, you know all about it if he does show up," said Jean Cecht, "so I wouldn't joke about that." Cú arrived back with the glass gown and sat down beside his brothers and his father. "What happened to him anyway, Dad?" asked Ceann. "Balor, I mean, that piercing eye, how'd that happen? You've never told us the full story." "Suppose now's as good a time as any," said Jean Cecht. "Make yourselves comfortable, boys, and I'll tell you the story of Balor of the piercing eye." Balor is the most feared warrior of the Fomorian tribe. Na Fór Wardy Ollamh Hardy, the Fomorians of Tory Island. He is their monster, leading them on their rampages on the mainland, killing, looting and pillaging. His eye, when opened, can destroy everything it looks upon. But Balor wasn't always like that. When he was younger, he was tall and handsome, promised to be the next great king of the Fomorians, and it was said that he was even kind-hearted. Not many people know that he saw a different way of life for the Fomorians, one where they could be united with the Tuatha Dé Danann and all could live in harmony. Balor loved magic. The druids of Na Fór Wardy were the most feared and most powerful in all the land. They had a great dark magic. Balor loved watching them as they stood around their cauldrons concocting poisons and potions, spells. His father warned him to stay away, saying he could get hurt. "That magic is dangerous, Balor. I've told you, keep away." But Balor wouldn't listen, kept sneaking around outside doorways, peering through windows, hoping to catch a glimpse of what was going on inside. One day, upon hearing the chants of the druids, he walked up to the building where the sound was coming from. There was a crack and a shutter in a window. He pressed his eye up against it. Inside, he saw 7 druids around a cauldron, chanting louder than he had ever heard before. The cauldron bubbled red hot, and their chants grew louder and louder and louder and louder, and suddenly a red hot liquid burst from the cauldron, flying across the room and hitting the window and Balor directly in his eye. Screams of agony arose from Balor as he writhed around on the floor. The druids, upon hearing the screams, rushed outside and saw Balor, knowing he only had seconds to live because the poison they had made was a deadly one. They used all their magic to withdraw it from him, and they managed to save Balor, but they couldn't save the eye. So they had it sealed shut with a ring and cast a spell upon it, saying only 4 men could open it, for they knew that when opened, this eye would destroy everything it looked upon. That poison changed Balor. It was as if his own soul had been poisoned. He became dark and angry, cold and cruel, bent on destruction. The only thing that stopped him from destroying everything in his path was a woman named Kathleen of the Crooked Teeth. She had loved Balor since he was a child. And poison eye or no poison eye, her love didn't change. She stuck by him. Balor knew he would always have a companion in her. And this softened him a little, and they married. And although neither of them were exactly the best looking people on the block, they had a child, said to be the most beautiful child anyone had ever seen. But when this child was born, Balor was told to kill her immediately, for it was prophesied that her offspring would bring about the death of Balor. But for some reason, he didn't do it. Instead, he had her locked away in a tower with 12 women, and apparently she's still there to this very day.
Just that was some story, your class storyteller.
Jean Keith and his sons heard a young voice and turned around to see a beautiful red-haired boy sitting behind them. "Who the fuck are you?" asked Kevin, "and where'd you come from?"
Well, I'm Ned, wee Ned from down the way, and I was just walking past and I heard your story. I was class. I didn't want to break your flow or nothing, so I just stuck up behind you there and had a wee listen, if that's alright.
"Well, that would explain why we didn't hear you coming," said Jean Keith. "Well, anyway, Ned, why you go back to your man, Dad? Shouldn't be hanging about here at night like this. And you boys, these are busy too."
Can I not stay about and hear one more story?
"No, you can't. These boys have to bring the glass down and back to the stables. So where you go, back to your man, Dad." 3 days later, Cian, Coo and Cahan were on their way to the forge of Gobnu, great blacksmith of the Tuatha Dé Danann. "Well, today's the day," said Cian. "We're getting our new swords. And none other than Gobnu himself making them for us," said Cahan. "No better man," said Coo. "Right, here we are," said Cahan. "Who's going in and who's staying outside with a glass?" "Cian, you can stay outside, you're the one who was freaking out." "Well, actually," said Cian, "I want to talk to Gobnu. There's a bit I'd like him to make on my sword, so I really want to go in." "Well, I'm definitely going in," said Coo. "Well, what about me?" said Cahan. "Well, what about this?" said Coo. "You stay here and we'll say to Gobnu to make your sword first. Will that do?" "Alright then," said Coo. "Away you go." Sorry, said Cahan. "Away you go." Cahan settled himself down.
Now we're getting a lot of feedback there from something. Goldie, my last.
I don't like me telling this story, it really is the spirits I can sense. So
It's coming from the side effects.
Sure will. Well, we'll go on anyway. Cahan settled himself down outside on the grass and he watched the glass gown and graze. And then, all of a sudden, he heard feedback.
Positive or negative?
And he said, "Lucas, I'm just going to stall here for 5 until this goes away." And it did go away. And then he heard a wee voice beside him.
Well, what's the crack of the day?
"You again? Ned, isn't it?"
Me again, that's me. What are you up to today?
"Well," said Kevin, "we're actually getting new swords today. Gobnu's making them for us and he's making mine first, so I'm delighted."
Ooh, very nice. Sounds good, sounds good. Is that your two brothers though, up at the forge?
"It is indeed."
Oh, right, because I'm pretty sure I heard one of them saying to your man only to be making 2 swords.
"What?" "Right, Ned. Don't move. Sit here. Keep your eyes on that cow. In fact, don't take your eyes off her. I'll be back in 2 minutes. You'll have a couple of coins for your trouble." "Now don't take your eyes off her," called Cahan as he raced towards the forge.
Don't worry, I won't take my eyes off her. Ever again.
Cahan burst through the doors of the forge. First thing he noticed were 3 swords on the fire. Knowing something was wrong, he turned and ran back to where he had left the boy, but there was no sign of him, or the glass gowning. The fight that ensued among the brothers was a bitter one, as they came to blows, each blaming the other, saying it was their fault. No, it was your fault! Jane Kecht turned up and furiously demanded to know what was going on. When they told him, he was livid. Right, get out there and find the glass gowning, he said. Don't come back without her. I'll go, said Cain. I'll go to Birth Lugh. She'll know what to do. Birth Lugh will know what to do, Da. I'll go and ask her who this boy is, where the glass is. She'll fix all of this. Very well, said Jane Kecht. Go. Cain made his way to the tower of Birth Lugh, great druid and sorceress of the Tuatha Dé Danann, and a great friend of their family. When he reached the tower, he burst through the doors. Birth Lugh was sitting looking into the fire. He told her everything. He was frantic. She didn't look up when he'd finished his story. She did finally look up from the flames and say, I already know, Cain. I had a dream last night. A young, red-haired boy lay at the glass gown in northwest. When they got to the shores of Donegal, they took a boat and headed towards Tory Island. So you know now who this boy was, Cain. Balor, he gasped. What Jane Kecht had forgotten to include in his story about Balor was that Balor was a shapeshifter, capable of taking the form of any animal or any bird, or a small red-haired boy. What are we going to do now? Asked Cain. Well, we have to go over there, said Birth Lugh. We can't allow the Fomorians to keep our cow of plenty. We'll have to get her back. But how? Asked Cain. Well, we can't go by boat, said Birth Lugh, or we'll be killed on sight. I can cast a spell. I can shapeshift us into seabirds and we'll fly over, and when we reach Tory, we'll fly around the whole island and locate the glass gowning from above. And when we see her whereabouts, we'll fly down, shapeshift back into her human forms, and I can't transform her into a bird, but we'll get her to the shore somehow. And I can make another spell, creating us a vessel to speed over the waves back to the mainland. Sounds like a plan, said Cain. Let's go. They flew towards Tory Island over the waves. They soared, swooped and glided. They shrieked in their seabird voices. Finally, in the distance, they could make out a shape protruding out of the ocean. Tory Island. They flew through the clouds, closer and closer. Then Cain noticed something. A tower on top of the cliffs. It was in the distance, but he became transfixed by it. He couldn't take his eyes off it. He changed course and flew directly towards that tower. Birth Lugh, noticing this, swooped around him, above him, below him, trying to change him back to their original course, but he was focused now, wouldn't take his eyes off the tower. Closer and closer they flew, and she knew, we're headed to the tower, there's nothing I can do. When they landed on the rocks below the tower, she transformed them back into their human form. What the fuck are you playing at, Cain? She asked. I don't know, said Cain. I just know that I can't take my eyes off that tower. Well, that tower isn't part of our plan, said Birth Lugh. That is the tower of Balor's daughter, Ethna. We hadn't got that in our plan. I don't know, said Cain. I'm drawn to that tower for some reason. I don't know why I couldn't take my eyes off it. Yeah, I noticed, said Birth Lugh. There must be a reason why, said Cain. I mean, if Balor's daughter's inside, then maybe the glass gowning's in there too. Like, surely it has guards around it. That could be a safe place to keep her. Birth Lugh thought about this. You could be right, she said. And maybe Ethna could be the key to locating the glass gowning as well. Balor hasn't exactly been good to her. Let's go to the tower, but you must know, no men are allowed to enter, only women folk. But what do we do about that, asked Cain. I'll cast a spell, making us appear as young, beautiful women. We'll get to the tower, I'll do the talking, you keep your mouth shut, put your hood up, stay quiet. Alright, said Cain. They made their way to the tower. They reached the guards. "I have a delivery of fresh bread here for the ladies," said Birth Lugh. "On you go, girls," said the guards, eyeing them up. They walked over to the door of the tower. A lady answered and let them in. "Right," said Birth Lugh. "You get up and find Ethna. She'll be up at the top of the tower somewhere. I'll go and look for the glass. Hurry." "Okay," said Cain, and he rushed to the top of the tower. When he got up to the top, there was a door and he walked through and gasped. Before him, lying back in a chair, with her eyes closed, was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She took his breath away. He was so overcome by her beauty that he immediately forgot why he was even there. He forgot the glass dining. He forgot everything. All he could see was her. All that mattered was her. Hair like silk which fell down to her knees. Skin as white as snow. Cheeks flushed pink like the roses. She opened her eyes, and they were as deep and as blue as the ocean. A beautiful light filled the room where Ethna lay. She opened her eyes slowly and saw before her a hooded figure. Her heart began to race, for she knew it must be him, the man whose face she had come to know so well. For that face was so beautiful, eyes of piercing blue, golden curls. He looked at her, and although he didn't speak, "Wait, something's not right. Something's different. It doesn't look the same. Am I awake or asleep?" She pinched herself. "I'm awake. Are you really here?" she asked. "I am," he said. Ethna was filled with joy and panic and every emotion imaginable all at once. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm Cain. Are you Ethna?" "I am," she said. She began to cry, overwhelmed by all her feelings. "I knew you'd come one day," she said. "I knew you would come." He rushed to her to comfort her. He wiped the tears from her face, and she smiled through the tears up at him. Overcome, he kissed her, and she fell into him. Minutes passed, but it felt like hours as the room disappeared. All around them were the stars of the universe in a vast expanse stretching out before them. There was no gravity, no air, no sound, nothing but the two of them as they became one. Ethna felt every fibre of her being filled with the most beautiful joy and ecstasy, a love she never could have imagined, a love she never knew existed. Suddenly Cain became aware of the room. Ethna in his arms. The sound of footsteps on the stairs, banging on the door. That was not Ethna's voice calling him, but another. "You need to go," said Ethna. "You have to get out of here. They know you're here." "Where should I go?" asked Cain. Out the window, anything! They ran to the window. Cian looked outside and saw a seabird there, flapping furiously. It was Spear of Assal. He felt himself start to shapeshift back into his seagull form. He flew towards the window but felt compelled to turn back to Eithne and flew back, but she sobbed, urging him out. Cian, go! Just go! He flew outside and looked down, saw the Fomorian warriors racing towards the tower, Balor towering above them all. Spear of Assal motioned for them to fly out to sea, so off they flew back towards the mainland. As they flew, the reality of what had just happened hit Cian hard. They had failed in their mission. They had lost the glass gowning. And worse still, Cian had just tasted a love so pure, so beautiful, so divine. He never knew such a feeling existed, and now he had to leave. His heart broke into 1,000 pieces and he started to shriek in his seabird voice and cry. Tears fell from him down into the ocean below. Passed 9 months without the glass gowning, without their kye of plenty. And the Tuatha Dé Danann, although in mourning for a while, had come to accept their loss. They knew she wasn't coming back. They had other cows providing milk, and although they didn't possess the magic of the glass gowning, and their milk wasn't a fraction as good as hers, they accepted it. They had nuts on the trees, fresh meat in the forests, crops growing in the ground. They accepted it and they began to move on. Even Jean Kecht, who'd been furious with his sons, forgave them, for even he had been fooled by the small red-haired boy. Everyone began to move on with their lives. Everyone except Cian. He was lost in a strange grief, spent most of his time down by the river writing poetry. Lost in thought. Will you fucking snap out of it? Came a voice one day as Cahan plonked down beside him. How long is this going to go on, Cian? You know, Da and everyone else, they've forgiven us. She's not coming back. It's time to move on. How would you know how it feels? Asked Cian. How would I know how it feels, said Cahan. I know very well how it feels. I bore the wrath of Da and everyone else. But I'm moving on, Cian, and so should you. Just fuck off, will you? Said Cian. All right then, said Cahan, I'm away. There's a hurling match starting in 20 minutes. You know where to find us if you change your mind. See you later. Cian didn't turn round as Cahan left. He looked into the water and thought of Eithne. Her silken brown hair, eyes as deep and as blue as the ocean, her soft skin on his, the smell of her. Cian! Another voice interrupted. Spear of Assal, what do you want? What do I want? Get up and look at me, boy, and show some respect. Sorry, Spear of Assal, said Cian, getting to his feet. I've come with news, said Spear of Assal. Looks like we need to take another trip to Tory Island. What? Said Cian, his heart beginning to race. Eithne? Yes, it's Eithne, she said. You'd think you'd be worried about the glass gowning, but it's Eithne. Why? What's wrong with her? Asked Cian. Well, somehow during your brief encounter with her, you managed to get her up the skate. She's with Jade. What? Asked Cian. How do you know this? Well, I've been having my dreams again, said Spear of Assal. And you know what this could mean if her father finds out she's with child. the both of them will be destroyed. And we need that child. There's a prophecy which says that that child can bring about the destruction of Balor. That child could be the key to getting our Glasgow back, so we need to save that child. What's your plan? Asked Cain. Are you ready to become a seabird again? Said Birth Lugh. Over the waves, they swooped, soared, and glided. Cain's heart soared as he flew towards Tory Island. Soared at the thought of seeing Ethna again. Soared at the thought of her carrying his child. He was so happy. And although their mission and their plan was a dangerous one, and they may lose their lives, he didn't care. On they flew, and Tory Island became visible through the clouds. The sun was setting and cast a beautiful golden light on the tower. The evening was so beautiful, Cain was sure their mission would be a success. Then they heard something in the distance. Not sure what it was. They flew closer, and the noise became clear. Screams. A woman screaming. Ethna. Oh no, we're too late, thought Cain. My child's coming. Birth Lugh motioned for him to fly down to the beach. There were boats there. They flew down and she quickly shape-shifted them back into their human form. Are we too late? Asked Cain. Are we too late? I don't know, said Birth Lugh. I'm going to go to the tower. I'm going to try to save that baby. Get one of these boats ready to go. I'll be back as quickly as I can. And she ran towards the tower. Bring Ethna, he cried. Don't come without Ethna. I'll try my best, called Birth Lugh. But Birth Lugh and Cain weren't the only ones to hear those screams. Balor was in his tower with Kathleen. What the fuck's that noise? He asked. That is our daughter. That's our daughter screaming, said Kathleen. And I know those screams, for I too screamed like that once. When she left my body to come into this world, those screams arose from my body. Those are the sounds of childbirth. What the fuck are you talking about, said Balor. How could she be with child? We've been betrayed, said Kathleen. There's only one answer for it. Someone has betrayed us. Balor, I can't lose you. This child cannot be. I can't lose you, Balor. That won't happen, said Balor. He summoned his druid and his warriors, and they made off towards the tower. Just as Birth Lugh reached the tower, she saw the tall figure of Balor and his men. She quickly hid behind a tree. Oh shit, I'm too late. Balor entered the tower. The screams stopped for what seemed like an eternity. And then they started up again. But this time different. No! 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 Ethna's voice screamed. Balor emerged from the tower with his warriors and then finally his druid, carrying not one but 3 babies in his arms. And now it was their cries that filled the night sky. Birth Lugh watched as they made their way towards the beach where she'd left Cain. Fuck. She transformed herself into a seabird, swooped down over their heads, got to Cain just on time. Hide, she said, they're coming. Cain overturned the boat and they climbed underneath. Balor, his druid and his warriors arrived down to the beach. The druid got into a boat with the babies. The warriors pushed him out. Do it, commanded Balor. The druid began to sail out to sea. I won't watch this, said Balor. We're leaving. And he summoned his guards to leave. When they were out of sight, Cain jumped out from underneath the boat. He started dragging the boat towards the shore. It's too late for that, said Birth Lugh. The druid's too far out. I can't watch my children die, said Cain. There's only one thing for it. Magic. Birth Lugh raised her arms up to the heavens, summoned all the magic she could to cast a spell, trying to save the babies. She directed her magic towards the boat where the druid and the children were. Cain looked over and saw the druid throw the children into the sea. Cain desperately jumped into the water and started swimming towards the boat. Hero's magic reached the babies under the water just as they began to choke and drown. One of them, the baby boy, was raised to the surface. He began to breathe, and he began to float gently over the waves as though they didn't even exist, back towards Spear of on the shore. The other two, a boy and a girl, gasped for air, succumbing to the sea. Spear of spell surrounded them, but the magic couldn't bring them to the surface. Suddenly they began to breathe under the water. Their bodies began to transform and change. A seal approached them from the abyss and began to guide them into the depths of the ocean. Cain was in trouble now. The waves crashed over his head, the current pulled him under. The sea was consuming him. He looked around and saw a tiny baby float past him, as though the waves didn't even exist, over towards the shore. He mustered all the strength he had within him and followed the child. He got to the shore, dripping wet, freezing. He crawled towards Spear. He stood up and looked at the baby in her arms. A bright, shining, beautiful baby boy, light emanating from him, eyes of piercing blue, golden curls. My child, he cried, my son. And what of the other two, Spear? What of the other two? I'm sorry, I couldn't save them, Cain. I couldn't bring them to the surface. But they live. I have transformed them into creatures of the ocean. They live, Cain. Cain began to cry. Quick, get down! The druid was approaching the shore. They all climbed under the boat which had been overturned. Druid got out of his boat, looked out the ocean, satisfied that his evil deed had been done, then walked towards Balor's Tower. Cain struggled to get out from the boat. I'll fucking kill him! Spear hissed. Don't be so fucking stupid, get down! We'll all be killed. The only chance we have of saving this baby is to get out of here now, Cain. Get this boat out onto the sea. We're leaving. I'm going nowhere without Ethna, said Cain. We can't save her, Cain. We have to go now. Save your child. Cain knew she was right. They dragged the boat over to the shore. They all got in. Cain wrapped his baby in a cloak, set him on the floor of the boat, and they sailed in silence back to the mainland. Cain stared at his beautiful baby boy. He didn't speak for a while. Finally he raised his head. His name is Lugh, he said. Back at Ethna's tower, she lay in a pool of blood. Sinead frantically mopping it up, begging her to get up onto the bed. Ethna, please, please, don't touch me, said Ethna. Don't touch me. Her lady surrounded her. Ethna, you are going to die. Let us help you. I said, don't touch me. Let this be my last wish. Don't touch me, please. Ethna had lost everything. Before Cain's arrival, Ethna had a relatively happy life. She had her ladies for company. She didn't know any different. But when Cain arrived, he shattered her world. She tasted, very briefly, a love so beautiful. It transformed her, left her distraught. She stood at her window day after day, waiting for Cain to return, looking at all the seabirds. Is that him? That could be him. She was obsessed. Nobody could bring her around. But Cain didn't come. And then she felt the fruit of their union growing in her womb. And again she had hope. She had love. She had joy. But she was also terrified, because she knew what it would mean if anybody found out. And again she prayed, hoped and begged that Cain would come back, and he didn't come. Her handmaidens helped her to conceal the pregnancy, knowing they were risking their own lives too. And when they could conceal it no more, and when the screams of labour left Ethna, she screamed louder than ever, hoping that Cain would hear, that a seabird would turn up at the window, that he'd come in, that he'd help her and the babies. But he didn't come. And when the labour was over, a labour that had almost cost her her life, and her 3 hot babies lay on her breast, she had them dragged from her breast by her father's druid, and she screamed and screamed, hoping that Cain would finally hear her and come back. But he didn't come. So now all she had left was death, and she welcomed it, and she closed her eyes and prayed to the Great Spirit to let her pass over peacefully. She drifted off to sleep and began to dream. Floating across the ocean she was. She looked down and saw a boat. 2 hooded figures were on board. One of them, a woman, turned around and beckoned for her to come closer. She floated down, and the woman pointed to something on the floor of the boat. She looked over and saw a beautiful baby wrapped in a cloak. Eyes, bright blue like her own, golden hair like Cain's. My son? Could it be? Yes, said the woman, he is your son. She looked at the other figure. It was Cain. Cain had come back. He'd come back for her, and he'd saved one of their babies, and he was taking him back to the mainland. Her child was going to be safe. She tried to get Cain's attention, but he couldn't see her. Finally, Cain looked up and he said something. She listened closely. His name is Lugh, he said. She woke from her dream with a start. Help me! Help me! She asked her handmaidens, and they all surrounded her, pulled her up onto the bed and began to tend to her. Ethna's heart was full of hope and joy again. Cain had returned, and although he hadn't saved all of their babies, one lived. A boy who would come back and avenge his brother and sister. A boy who would take revenge for what they had done to her. His name was Lugh, and he would fulfill the prophecy.